It's nighttime in the desert as the Phoenix International Raceway plays host to the 14th race of the 4th season of the Dark Horse Racing Series presented by Troy Lee Designs. Here tonight, these drivers are out on track qualifying for tonight's event, which will be 120 laps in length. I'm Seth Cole, alongside of Scott Rankin. And Scott, I think it's safe to say of all of the speedways that are on the schedule here this season, in terms of track layout, this has to be one of the most unique.
Oh, for sure. And welcome back to the booth, Seth. The crystal ball was missed last week.
It's great to be back in the booth for sure. As we got several drivers out here on track. Just saw Jeff Highsong in the 18. He just clocked in 3rd on the board. Now drops to 4th. Is only 5 minutes for drivers in qualifying here this week, as opposed to the normal 10 minutes. We usually jump in during the second half of qualifying, so a little bit more urgency for these guys to go out there, make sure that they set these lap times.
That's what they were looking for, is that ultimately a lot of the time track temperatures come down just a little bit, or alternatively drivers were just looking for what their times were, what their targets were, what they needed to do to get themselves up there on the board and be confident in their times. A little bit of an adjustment, works quite well. Eric Schaus, did you just see what Eric Schaus did?
Did not.
He just hard left into the inside barrier. I think he was sick of, he didn't like his qualifying attempt.
He's 6th on the board right now. We saw Rick Ravon, the former points leader, lost the points lead last week at Motegi to the winner of that event, Henry Bennett. Now looking at Eric Peterson, he just jumped to the top of the board in the 36. He's looking for his first pole on the season. That was a very solid lap.
Yeah, I mean, really solid lap from Peterson, and I just had a quick look at Matt Wagner, who's filing out of pit lane at the moment. His qualifying woes just continue for Matt Wagner. He just cannot get that thing done into a reasonable qualifying lap at all this season. It's just, qualifying is beyond him.
Wagner last week led the most laps at Motegi, 48 in total, but only finished in the 8th position. So obviously he's looking for a little bit better luck here. And now filing out on track is the only driver coming in tonight that has a victory here at Phoenix. And that was, of course, last season, Degroot.
Wagner's around again. His time for a qualifying run is actually dramatically running out now. He's down to a sub 2 minutes. So there's enough time to get the lap in. But he needs to get out there and he needs to get it done. Just settle it down, buddy. Nice and cruisy. Get those tires up to temperature, friend.
Now filing out onto the back straightaway. Of course, running the Phoenix tonight with the dog leg. That will not come into play in tonight's event. Drivers will not be able to go down below the yellow line when they enter onto the back stretch. But of course, it gives them a much easier access road when coming off pit lane if we end up seeing potentially a cycle of green flag pit stops. Degroot, really slow lap time there for him, as he's going to clock in 10th on the board and actually is going to use that major inside of the dog leg here, at least for qualifying. We'll see what that's going to do in terms of helping his lap time, as hits the line and he jumps from 10th up to the 4th position.
That's a good spot from Nick Degroot. Clearly done his homework. Noticed that there's some potential time to be gained out there. Craig Forsythe, new entrant to the series, his debut race last week was reasonable, got involved in that lap 1 caution. Look, I mean, it happens, and you got to work your way into a league, so I'm keen to see what he can do now out at Phoenix now these debut races out of the way.
Henry Bennett's going to clock in for 5th, and just a small correction on Craig Forsythe. He didn't run last season, and he hasn't run this season, but he is a former driver here in the Dark Horse Racing
there you go.
Series. Actually won the Indy 500 back in Season 2.
Lessons learned. Thank you, Seth. This is why we have you around, right?
Absolutely. Bennett was 5th on the board there on his first lap and was actually slower here on the second lap by over 2 seconds. My goodness, that's a huge drop-off for him. He might be just logging some laps right now. So he will be starting in the mid-half area of the top 10. Good lap time there for Jim Herrick as he clocks in at 3rd. And just like that, qualifying is over. And it looks like it is going to be... pole sitter, it's going to be the 24 of David Cook. I didn't actually even see the moment that he had taken the top spot from Eric Peterson. Looks like Peterson will be starting on the outside of the front row alongside of the 24. I have to double check, but I believe that might be David Cook's first pole of his career.
I believe so, yeah. So, because he's only been in here a couple of races, and Rick Ravon will be happy for his teammate, and he'll have at least somebody to work with, in the opening couple laps. That'll be his target as well.
Yeah, that's only Patriot Speed's second pole on the season. Rick Ravon only had one pole coming into tonight. So we talked about the fact that Henry Bennett took the victory last week at Motegi. That was his 5th win on the season. Also takes the points lead over from Rick Ravon. But, it's been something we've been covering for maybe the last 3 or 4 weeks. The fact that the top 5 are still within striking distance of each other. They all seem to finish right around each other, usually comprise up the top 5 each week in our finishing results. Bennett 13 points over Rick Ravon, then 25 points back is Degroot, 37 back Maleska, and 56 back Wagner. It just kind of seems like as we get closer to the end of this season, right down to the home stretch, of who's going to blink first, who's going to have the mistake that's going to take them out of this championship picture. Up to this point, it seems like none of those 5 have put a wheel wrong.
It does a little bit, and the other side of the thing as well is that I think, honestly, Wagner needs to turn up the ante now. He can't afford a bad race from this point. He needs to be scoring mega points. He needs to be beating probably Henry Bennett, probably Rick Ravon in just about every race home to have a shot. So the ante's just going to lift a little from him. That's his goal. In terms of things for the rest of the field, what have they got to do? Well, Ravon's target is just Henry Bennett. He's going to be aware of the other cars, where they're around. That's about it. Everyone else is going to be, clamber over Ravon and Bennett. Those are their targets. And the other guys, it's kind of like, well, if I beat them, fantastic, but I have to beat these 2 guys. So those will be where the targets are painted.
So there your starting grid presented by LMCgear.com. 17 of 20 drivers that are scheduled to take the green put down lap times. 18th place will be Joseph Morales. He's making his debut here tonight. Nicholas Winnock and Gary Corley are going to make up the 10th and final row for this evening's festivities. Obviously, racing here in the desert under the lights, it's going to be a little bit cooler than if we were racing in the daytime, but it's still on the west coast of the United States. So these drivers are going to have to deal with temperatures around 76 degrees, and there's no doubt.
Maleska's not in the field. I just noticed. Maleska's not in the field.
That's a great point. I didn't even notice it either. Wow. So that's something we're going to have to keep tabs on during the course of the night as well, depending on where the other top 4 in the standings finish. Green flag is out. We're racing here at Phoenix International. David Cook, great jump, leaves him 3 wide behind him for 2nd place.
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, you got to settle into this race now. Multiple guys with championships on the line. They've clearly got their eyes out. Guys that are joining the series, it's really, really important that you recognize that there is a championship that's coming to its head at this point in time, and you make sure that you give everyone a lot more space.
1 and 2 are very tight corners, especially into turn 1. 3 and 4 a little bit more sweeping corners, but it's incredible to me when I was watching these guys in practice just how much speed they carry through these turns, especially with the fact there's a very limited amount of banking over here in turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, and the other thing is that's going to wear those tires. That limited amount of banking, and especially from Phoenix as well, that's just pretty natural. These guys, there's nothing they can really do. The tire wear, the tire drop off over the race, I think it's going to be quite strong. Alternatively as well, it's going to be about race, but I don't know how much overtaking is going to happen here tonight, Seth. We've seen it at these shorter tracks. The cars just don't seem to be able to get the runs that they need to get the overtaking. And have a look at the lines that they're running through 3 and 4. They don't really seem to get down to the apron. They're trying to maintain that momentum up on the high line.
Oh, we've had ourselves an overtaken. It was for the race lead. Rick Ravon getting around his teammate. He'll move up to P1. Cook drops back to 2nd. Eric Peterson, who started from the outside of the front row, dropping back now to 3rd, and he's under fire from the defending winner of this race, Nick Degroot.
Yeah, so Degroot's probably just in a little bit of race management at the moment. I mean, 120 laps at Phoenix. It's going to go by relatively quickly. It should be one of the shorter races here tonight. Average speed's going to be right up there for a short track because it's quite wide, quite open, so...
Also keep an eye on some of these guys that started deep in the field, because if last year's Phoenix race ends, go by us, we got a car on the wall off of 2. That's Jim Brooks in the 51. He made some pretty good contact, hits the wall again there going through the dogleg, and is slow entering into turn 3. There's something obviously very wrong with the suspension on that race car. He was having a hard time getting it to turn going into the 3rd corner, and he's coming down to the attention of his pit crew. No caution to save him, so he's going to lose at least a lap, maybe more. But going back to last season's Phoenix race, we ended up having Nick Degroot win that race from the 10th starting position. As a matter of fact, 4 of last year's top 5 finishers didn't start even up inside of the top 9.
Yeah, that's insane, isn't it? Just to see the differences across the distance of everything. And I mean, throwback to last week's race at Motegi, it was actually just flicking through the penalty system as well. Jimmy Drynen's just come to the attention of the stewards too many times this season, was parked for this race, will not be allowed to take part in this race. So he's also a notable absentee from tonight's race.
About Degroot and Rayvon right now up inside of the top
Oh, look at where
five
Brooks rejoins.
Yeah, comes right out, right beside the race leader. And he is going to give way, at least the two here on the front straightaway. There's Matt Wagner in the 11. He's picked up 3 spots since the drop of the green flag, from 10th up to 7th. On the flip side, Henry Bennett started 7th. He's lost 2 spots, currently slotted into the 9th position.
So this is interesting for Jim Brooks as well. His qualifying attempt put him P6, so he's definitely got enough race pace, theoretically, to be up here. And the other side of the coin is he wants to get himself back to 1 lap down, because if he can get himself back past Rick Rayvon, then all of a sudden he's only 1 lap down, 1 caution puts him back on the lead lap. So he's got multiple, and IndyCar drivers in real life have really mentioned something like this, you know, more at the road courses where the lucky dog rule tends to apply a lot less, is that it's harder to get your lap back, so you have to race the leaders, and they don't really want that. They really want to be able to let the leaders go and let the leaders have, you know, clearly their day something's gone wrong, as it has for Jim Brooks here. So he's got a responsibility here. He needs to either make it known that he's just going to see these positions as they get to him and try not to fall 3 laps down, because 3 laps down, that's 3 cautions. He's never going to get back up here. Or does he try and hold and try and fight his way back past Rick Rayvon? Rayvon's gone.
He is definitely pulling away over a second, now 1.2 seconds back to David Cook. And going back to the Jim Brooks incident, obviously not wanting to have an issue this early on in the race, but I think if you're going to have a problem, better to have it now than later on, because you've got over 100 laps to be able to mount a recovery to try and get back onto the lead lap and be able to salvage something.
Yeah, correct. That is the one benefit. So, look, I mean, he's going to have to head down. He's going to... Ultimately, his race is still laid out before him. And Brooks has always been one of those really good guys. I talk about it every week, how you got to, you know, run race management. You got to be able to keep yourself in contention. And Jim's one of the guys that regularly does that. He's able to put himself up at the 4 through great pit strategy. He may not have the amazing outright pace to win one of these on pace alone, but he's capable of doing it on race management, as we saw earlier in the season as well. So he's got a shot here. Don't count him out just yet.
Of course, Jim Brooks almost took the checkered flag at another track with very low banking. That, of course, was earlier on the season at New Hampshire.
I didn't want to mention it.
Well, you know, it's in the statistic book, so we've got to mention it. 4th place, AJ Hobson. Now, keep an eye on this guy, because last season, he finished 4th, top 5 here at Phoenix. He's got very good numbers when it comes to this racetrack, and solid qualifying effort up inside of the top 10, 8th place, up 4 spots, and just starting to pull away from Eric Peterson, actually reeling in Nick Degroot. This 63's got a lot of speed early on.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how Hobson goes over the longer term. Jim Brooks is actually sitting in between these guys, so he's ahead of Nick Degroot. So he's actually not in between Degroot and Hobson, but that could have impacted Degroot's pace for a couple of laps there. So I would be just a little bit mindful. Hobson may start to drift back just a little bit further. The field's starting to get fairly spread out, and this is kind of what I expected. The high downforce sort of style of track. Short track, so things are going to wear, gaps are going to spread, the cars aren't going to want to run very close together, so pretty consistent, like another car that's going to be coming to iRacing in the near future.
Nice to see the 6 of George Anzaldo back in the field here tonight. His 4th start on the season. His best finish so far this year in those 3 starts was a 5th place run at the Watkins Glen Road Course. Just behind him is Matt Wagner, who was able to get around Jim Herrick a couple of laps ago, and now Henry Bennett looking to do the same. That's the ongoing battle for the 8th spot. And you mentioned about the fact that the field is spreading out. Already 20, now going on 21 laps under the green flag. Certainly, at least at this point, this race a far cry away from last year's Phoenix race, where we saw the yellow flag wave a total of 12 times.
Ooh, I'm so glad they've managed to clean it up and get out there. Did you have to do that, Seth? Can you put the crystal ball away again?
Every time I put it away, it somehow makes its way back out of the closet. I don't know how.
You at the end of each broadcast, you're like packing it away. The next time Dark Horse rolls around, the crystal ball's sitting there on the desk glowing like, use me,
Whoa,
Seth.
Nick Degroot! Might have brushed the wall there off of turn 4. That was a close one, as you saw him
He's
Pull the
tight.
car hard to the left.
He's very tight off of 1 and 2 as well, so his front tires are wearing quite heavily. And have a look at Hobson. Hobson smells blood in the water.
Closing in as I'm almost wondering, you see that
Brooks
car
is an
ahead,
issue.
That's Brooks. Yeah, is that what's causing that possible aero tightness he felt off of 4?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look at how tight he's really closed in on Brooks, and the closer you get, the more impact it's going to have. The air's rippling a lot more closely. Look at he's searching for the grip by having to try run that different line. He's got a huge run here. Degroot's got to get this done. He has to get this done.
Dives it to the inside into turn 1. He will clear before they even get to the center of 1 and 2. So he'll now put that lap machine in his rearview mirror, and we'll see if that's going to help him with his exit off of turn 4 this time around. Hobson now trying to make the move as well. The one thing we know, though, whether you've got a car in front of you or not, with the way that Phoenix is, with the flat corners and the fact that it's really going to build up the heat in that right front tire, that's just something everybody's going to have to deal with, that tightness off the corner and making sure that you don't get back to the throttle too soon, because that wall, it kind of just comes out of nowhere and grabs your race car. Brooks
has got to get out of this. He can't be here. This is not appropriate for him to be in the middle. Yeah, pace-wise, he's right here, 100%. He should be, if he was on the lead lap, he should be racing these guys for position, but he's cost AJ Hobson at least half a second, if not more, over a 20-second lap. That's just, it's not acceptable, and I'm pretty sure that Brooks recognized that the second time by and just rolled out of the throttle, so good job by Brooks.
He's also not battling anybody on the track right now either. He's the only car off the lead lap. So as long as he just makes sure he manages the gap between himself and the race leader and doesn't lose another lap here under green flag conditions, that's basically just the goal he's got to do right now. Doesn't need to, as you said, be battling with drivers up there inside of the top 10. Yeah,
there's an issue, though, that's coming up for Jim Brooks, is that Rick Ravon is quite quickly closing on our 19th and 18th place drivers. If they go a lap down, all of a sudden the lucky dog gets handed over to those guys, and he's just trapped and there's nothing he can really do. Alternatively, we're going to start coming up on pit windows here at the other side of the coin. What I was actually expecting from Jim Brooks is probably his best scenario is he needs to run really, really long. We've seen a lot of issues with these drivers and these cars coming in around that green flag pit window, so I'm expecting more of that chaos around the pit window tonight.
Gap right now about 1.7 seconds from Rick Ravon back to David Cook, and another 2 seconds back to Nick Degroot, then over another second back to Hobson, and a second and a half back to George Anzaldo. The top 5, all of them right now, it's kind of driver versus car rather than driver versus driver. You got to go back to around the 6th position before you start to see some close battles.
And that's where Brooks is, 5th, 6th position, and Brooks is just in front of that, which is backing Jorge Anzaldo up into Eric Peterson, and Wagner's there as well. So Wagner, I mean, this is not good enough to get his season back underway. He is ahead of Henry Bennett, but he's going to lose a lot of time and a lot of points to Rick Ravon, and that's, if he wants a shot at this title, it's slipping out of his grasp. I think he's got maybe this week and maybe next week. If he doesn't perform in either of those weeks, the best he can possibly do is an outside podium shot. As of this moment, the 4 drivers that did take the green flag here tonight, they're inside the top 5, are all running up inside of the top 9. Let's highlight a little bit more about what you brought up when we were getting ready to take the green flag. The fact that Robert Maleska III, the 4-time winner and defending champion of the series, not in the field here tonight. And this is not the first race that he has missed this season. We know that there's going to be an opportunity, I think, for them to have a drop week when we get to the season finale, but he's going to have to choose, I guess, between tonight and what other races he ends up missing here during the course of the season, of where he wants that drop week to be. He's already burned drop weeks.
Has he? Okay, so that's what I'm wondering. I mean, would tonight, with the fact that the other 4 are running so well, does tonight put a nail in the coffin of his championship hopes? Because this season's almost done. We've only got 5 more races after tonight. Yeah, potentially. I mean, there's a lot to unravel here from Robert Maleska's season, and a big part of that is have a look at his poor result from Pocono. Okay, well, there's maybe a drop round being used there, but also have a look further back at Road America. That's a drop round for me for sure. If you're going to burn one, I think that's been his worst result in the season. You wouldn't be expecting to miss a race. Oh! And sorry to cut you off. We did have a car in the wall there. I think it was Craig Forsythe. No, Todd Schneider in the 86, but he was able to save it.
And Forsythe's there, so there's 2 cars now that have gone a lap down as well. and the 18 and the 19 both on 18th and 19th place cars both on pit road. So Schneider and Forsythe are both going to cycle through. This may work back into Jim Brooks' favor. He may be able to put those guys 2 laps down and behind him.
We'll see if Brooks will be able to pick up a couple of spots there with Forsythe and Schneider coming down to the attention of their crews. Schneider definitely did get the wall. I think Forsythe might have actually brushed the wall too. I think we saw just the tail end of it there through the center of the dog leg. And I mean, obviously, the last thing you want to do is have damage to the right side of the race car, because that's just going to make the tight sensation that these drivers are already dealing with all that much worse.
Additionally, it was having it right in and around Rick Ravon and David Cook as well. So the 2 leaders, like, you know, if you're gonna have an issue, fine, you have an issue. That's racing. I mean, it happens. You can't be perfect every week. God knows I struggle to be perfect any week. So, look, but you don't want to take anyone out, especially somebody that's battling for a championship and a race win at the same time. What control the guys, Rick Ravon and David Cook, have had over this race so far. I mean, Cook led the early laps. Ravon's qualifying pace hasn't been phenomenal this season. It's been okay at best, but he's always there and pushing for a race win immediately on the 2nd or 3rd lap, and he's done so again tonight. His race pace compared to his qualifying pace is something to be upheld. Matt Wagner, if only he could, he's definitely showing the same qualifying pace, not great qualifying pace. Qualifying doesn't agree with him. If only he could turn that around in the race to the same tune as Rick Ravon. Cars starting to cycle through for pit lane strategy, I think.
I think you are absolutely correct. Charles Teed in the 50 ducking onto pit lane, just completed his service, and he's down and away. Nick Degroot, he's now headed down pit road, along with Jeff Hysong and AJ Hobson. So maybe a little bit of an idea of what the window is for these guys, just cresting the 40-lap mark. Crucially, Jim Brooks is the lead car that's come cycled through pit road. Now, he does have he's got 7-lap fresher tires than everybody else from most of that run. So, look, I mean, if that caution's going to come, and it happens right now, Jim Brooks gets the lucky dog, he gets one of his laps back. The rest of the field nearly gets trapped that 1 lap down. At Wagner's in, Dylan Moskowitz followed him down. Here comes the race leader, Rick Ravon, onto pit lane. I mean, you talked about the fact that really not going to be a lot of opportunity for overtakes here tonight. Pit road, I have the feeling, may be the huge deciding factor into tonight's race in terms of positions gained and positions lost.
Look at David Cook compared to Rick Ravon, though. Cook's gone an extra lap on Ravon, but Ravon's gone an extra lap on a whole bunch of guys as well. So there's a lot going on there in terms of pit lane strategy and where it's all sort of all placed out. Have a look at, and Jim Brooks comes back out. He's going to be not the lead car 1 lap down. It's going to be up ahead of him as well.
Cook, George Zaldo, Jim Herrick in this lap. That turns the lead over to Henry Bennett. Eric Schaus in the 72 going to be running right behind him. Schaus was the pole sitter and runner-up in last year's Phoenix race, so keep an eye on him in the closing stages. Gail Brooks also stays out as Joseph Morales, Gary Corley come to pit road, so now we're just awaiting on the top 3 to finish out this first round of green flag pit stops.
And they're coming, I believe, this time by, so at least 2 of them are. Yeah, all 3 of them are, so yep. Green flag stops have been run and done. Okay. So a couple things to think about here, Seth, is that Jim Brooks is going to have to pit in about 5 laps. And in terms of that pit lane strategy, we're just past the 40-lap mark. So there's a little bit of flexibility. If this race goes green right the way through, there's flexibility to the end.
I would assume, too, with the fact that most of these drivers came down between laps 42 to 46. If we stay under the green flag, these guys only have 1 more pit stop left to go. And credit to everybody. Everybody was able to get their pit stops done and avoid any pit road penalty. We completed it all, and everybody is going to be safe from having to spend extra time on pit lane. Now, the one thing that kind of jumped out to me here is the fact that Nick Degroot, who came to pit road a couple laps before Ravon and Cook did, he's actually leapfrogged the 24 and broken up Patriot teammates.
Yeah, and that's really, really important as well. I just want to have a look at what the tire fall-off's like from our race leader, Rick Ravon, and just sort of see what they're dealing with. So his best lap is a 19.865 on lap 5. Since then, prior to his stop, he drifted out to a 20.662. So roughly 3/4 of a second to a second in terms of tire fall off across the entire stint. Now, he's been one of the best in terms of managing that. If we have a look at Nick Degroot, his best lap was a 19... Early on, he didn't dip into the 19s at all. He's just now dipped into the 19.932 since this stop. So his pace post the stop has been phenomenal. However, his lap times didn't blow out to the same degree that Rick Ravon's did later on in the stint. So he didn't have the early pace. He was managing his race a little bit, and he made that up. And it's in the early pace, it's like 3 tenths in the early couple of laps at most. And then he's gained all of that back in the subsequent laps later on in the run. So he's definitely playing a fair bit of tire management, and he's definitely seen that there's an opportunity. The fall off being 3/4 of a second per lap for the undercut, you only need 2 or 3 laps to jump somebody.
Now, what's going to be very interesting here, just kind of crunching the numbers a little bit, I'm looking at 3 drivers in particular that were some of the first ones to hit pit lane. And every single one of them for this round, they gained some spots, some by maybe just a position, some of them by multiple positions. Degroot, he gained 1 spot. Matt Wagner, he gained 2 from 7th up to 5th. And Jeff Heisong, he jumped from 10th up to 7th. If these guys are taking notice of the fact that the drivers who pitted earlier are gaining positions here, I think we're going to see just about everybody ducking onto pit lane that are in close battles when we reach the opportunity of them being able to make it the rest of the way on fuel, because, I mean, obviously taking advantage of those fresher tires and laying down those money laps early on, it's paid dividends for a few of the drivers.
I think the biggest factor is that clear track. If you can come out and there's clear track around you whilst you're on fresh tires, or there's drivers that are willing to offer you the lines that you want to run and let you on by because they recognize that they just cannot keep up with you with the ability to hold corner entry pace. That's going to be the big kicker. David Cook is slowly closing in. I'm just keeping my eyes on that one on Nick Degroot. And 1 and 2 is the real factor here. Through 3 and 4, Degroot actually seems a little bit stronger than David Cook. So that could be either Cook's tire managing, different sort of race strategies. Excuse me. Lines and things as well. Sorry, it's an early morning over here. He's going through and could be race strategy, but yeah, I would expect pit window's going to open right around that lap 75 mark. That's going to be crucial. I think, to be perfectly honest, to run the best stint that you possibly can and give yourself the best stint, I think you need to pit no earlier than lap 78. I'm targeting 80.
Interesting there when we were looking back from Nick Degroot, 2 drivers, 2 entirely different ways of approaching the corners. Degroot seems pretty committed of just running that middle line all the way from the start of the turn into the center and off. On the flip side, David Cook's kind of diamonding it. He'll start high, he'll bring it right down to the yellow line and let it swing wide, especially right up against that wall off of turn 2 and onto the back straightaway. And it's actually working for him as he reels into Degroot. Degroot on the flip side continuing to have to deal with traffic though, as I believe that is the 33 of Nicholas Winook that's just in front of him. He's now falling a lap down. Corley in the 7. All right, yeah, he's actually lost 3 laps as Gary Corley an extended stay on pit road to, I believe, get some damage repaired when he made his green flag pit stop. Also off the lead lap, Joseph Morales in the 60. We saw Craig Forsythe make an early pit stop for damage repair. He is a lap down also. So right now it's between Winook, Morales, and Forsythe potentially for the lucky dog, but I really don't want to jinx anything because we're halfway through, and these drivers are yet to see that caution flag come out.
Seth, why did you murder us? You've killed us.
I don't know.
You know exactly what happens when you say these things, Seth, and yet you still do it.
I do. I've tried finding a way to not say it, but then.
Oh, hang on. Keep your eyes on Degroot.
3 wide there as they go around Gary Corley. David Cook. Ooh, he gets close to the left rear. A little bit of a block there. Ooh, that's tight. Right through that dog leg area.
Cook got back to the power a little bit aggressively, and the rear wanted to just step a little bit on him. So it wasn't necessarily a block. It was that Cook was trying to make sure that they didn't make contact.
That dog leg reminds me an awful lot of the tri-oval at Daytona as well, where drivers will tell us in stock cars that it's the most unsettling area because it's not really a turn, it's not really a straightaway. It almost seems like how we saw both Degroot and Cook get out of shape there. It'd be the same thing here for these Indy cars.
Well, you say that, but the reason that the dogleg is so important and so crucial and also so scary within the stock cars is bump drafting. You're trying to still turn the car to the left to make it around the racing surface at the same time as you're getting a push from behind, which really lifts up and unsettles the rear of the car. For these guys, not necessarily. The biggest issue, there's not really any one particular section of the track that's causing these guys more issue than anything. Maybe the apron in the middle of 3 and 4, because it actually juts out late on in the corner. It's not sort of a smooth, constant circle. There's one section late in the corner where the apron just sort of dives back out a little bit onto the racing track. You've got to make sure that you're a little bit higher just as you come to that, and just as you hit that section of turn 4, you dive a little bit lower onto that apron, so you're sort of timing your runoff of 3 and 4 if you're running that low line. The real concern is definitely traffic right now, and we've seen it from Degroot and from Cook. These guys are the guys you got to keep your eyes on managing traffic, because they're just right in the middle of it. AJ Hobson is coming on these guys. I think he's had a little bit of a better run through the traffic, and that's what's changing things up. With pit stops due anytime from 7 laps from now, I'm wondering whether... I think if they can clear these cars, they'll run long. If they can't clear these cars, they'll dive in for the undercut straight away.
AJ Hobson maybe getting through traffic better than the second and third place cars, but he's also got his hands full. At Wagner took a look on him there for the 4th position as they were making their way around the 33 of Nicholas Winook. Looked like the 11 had to back off there through 3 and 4, and now he'll try and get back up there to Hobson. You talk about Degroot and Cook. We were focused just for a moment there on the 60 of Joseph Morales and the 33 of Nicholas Winook, because at the time they were battling for the free pass position, and you had the 2/3 of the podium running right behind them as well. So you had a battle within a battle, all in the same area of the racetrack.
And it's battles for not on the same lap, and that's the crucial factor as well. Matt Wagner's right there on Hobson.
I think Hobson may have gotten
tight.
the wall. Yeah, that was really close.
But he was right there. He had to roll a long way out of the throttle. So this is crucial for Matt Wagner. Have a look at, so we just saw that Nick Degroot and David Cook had a lot of issues with dealing with this traffic. Now Wagner and Hobson are coming up on it. And Wagner and Hobson are tight in this battle. Wagner's key on pit stops. Wagner's been one of the first guys to pull the trigger in terms of pit stops the last few weeks. So especially with where he is on the track right now and how condensed the field is in and around this spot, I think Wagner will be the guy to pull the trigger again.
Right now, running just on the back bumper of AJ Hobson. Next car up ahead of him, David Cook. He's only running about 2.5 seconds behind him. So, yeah, to your point, if he were able to come down pit road 2-3 laps earlier than the 24, who knows how much time he'd be able to make up. Oh, and there's a caution. Jim Herrick
has gone
around just near the start-finish line.
Oh, that's disappointing. That's disappointing, because I was really curious to see what the pit lane strategy is. Now it's simple. Everyone just comes in, and it's a green flag run to the end of the race, which is simple. So I really want to talk about potentially. Look, it's not going to happen, but I love the ability to potentially talk about the maybes. So we'll talk about that after we see this replay.
Herrick was running by himself here. Nobody was around him. We'll see if... Is he trying to get onto pit road? Does the car just come out around from underneath him? No, that thing just never turned. So he goes straight up into the outside wall, noses it, almost spears it into the inside wall, and fortunately, I guess the fact that he was running by himself, it did not take up any innocent bystanders, but it's a tough break there for Jim Herrick, who was running up inside the top 10 most of the night, had a great qualifying effort in 3rd place, and now more than likely his night is going to come to an early end. He'll have the faster pair, obviously, to keep him in the race, but with having to come down pit lane via the tow, it's going to lose him a number of laps here.
That'll be night over, and given the fact that this is the first caution we've seen, it's done. So you probably actually noticed that these guys are going to lose a couple spots off of pit road here. There's the lucky dog, I think, was a driver that was in P12, who's now jumped a long way up, which will be interesting to see how that plays itself out. So I think that was Gail Brooks. No, it wasn't Brooks.
I think it was Morales. I'll have to double check, but the 60 of Joseph Morales was the free pass car.
Which means he'll be cycling through pit lane this time by. Nick
Brooks actually
Winooks.
decided to stay out an extra lap and is now coming down to the attention of his crew. It now turns the race lead back over to Rick Ravon, who won the battle off pit road over Nick Degroot and David Cook.
So Ravon's just gonna bolt, and I'd say he's pretty much got this one tied up once again. People's champion, as I like to call him.
Well, let's not forget too that he's got a guy behind him who took the checkered flag here 1 year ago. Degroot led 32 laps in that race, and he also ended up winning that race from the 10th starting position. He started outside the top 5 here tonight as well from 6th. So I'm not certain that we've necessarily seen everything that Nick Degroot's able to bring to the table here tonight. It may not be an easy final 40 laps or so for Rick Ravon.
No, yeah, I mean, anything can happen here. And especially if we go caution, let's go with the mindset once again that cautions breed cautions. Do you want me to talk about traffic interactions again? Because I can talk about traffic interactions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Remember the statistic that there is a percentage chance of every car-to-car interaction that will cause an accident, and when you add in draft and aero capacities to that, that ups the number just a little bit. Look, to be perfectly honest, I think we're gonna get another caution here. I don't think we go green to the end. That's my own personal stamp on this one.
I would absolutely agree with you. It's the closest that all these drivers have been to each other since we took the green to start this race. Granted, there has been some traffic they've had to deal with, but really nothing in terms of having your top 5, top 10 all wadded up with chances of picking up positions. So this is going to be an interesting one as the lights out top the pace car, which means we're going back green flag racing with a total of, I believe, 43 laps to go. Rick Ravon, Nick Degroot, David Cook, AJ Hobson, and Matt Wagner are your top 5. Green flag is out. Ravon took an extreme low line to block any advance. David Cook jumps to the outside of Nick Degroot for second place.
Yeah, let's see how that one unravels itself, because remember, that's teammates working together. Look at Hobson! Where did Hobson come from?
I don't think he lifted through 1 and 2. Passes David Cook for the 3rd position. Degroot looks for the lead, and Hobson will have a heck of a run down the front straightaway for 1.
And Cook is looking for that spot. Where can he shove that nose? Because he does not want Hobson to get away with this one. Cook's there as well.
At Wagner in the mix, as well as George and Zaldo. Top 6, throw a blanket over him through 3 and 4 as Ravon opens up 2 car lengths back to Degroot. Degroot, a car length back to Cook, who's under fire from Hobson, and Zaldo to the inside of Wagner for the 5th spot.
Yeah, keep your eyes deep in the pack as well. These guys are still trying to figure it out. Ravon's got that aero advantage now, so he's starting to show some legs. That's why Degroot got aggressive early on. Now it's teammate of Ravon versus Nick Degroot. This is going to get spicy in behind him here.
Riding on board here with Matt Wagner, obviously here tonight. The not starting the race for Robert Maleska III is going to be hurting him down the home stretch, but Matt Wagner, of the top 5 in points, was the furthest out, so he needs to keep the consistent runs going, especially with the fact that Ravon and Degroot, 2 guys he's trying to chase down, are currently your top 2.
Yeah, and that's crucial. He needs to get up here and see if he can't steal a P3 away, P4 away. He needs at least 1 position higher. 5th, I don't think is good enough. He's going to get a whole bank of points, if you will, over Henry Bennett, but that's not good enough. He needs a little bit more than that.
I can't believe that we're actually saying tonight Henry Bennett has not made an appearance in the top 5 the entirety of this evening. Highest he's run is where he's currently at, the 7th position. He's now making a charge on George Anzaldo for 6th place, but this just doesn't seem to be the Henry Bennett that we are used to seeing consistently up inside the podium week after week.
Well, maybe he's about to turn it back on. Maybe he's about to show us something. If he can get by Anzaldo, he's got a shot at starting to hunt down Wagner, and Wagner does not want to see that.
To get up there to the back bumper of the 6. Up ahead of them, though, you've got a good battle brewing. That's for 4th place. Wagner continuing on the hunt of AJ Hobson. As the top 3 have all pulled away, they have about a half second separating each one of them. Then it's 4th place on back in the latter half of the top 10 where the battling is going on. How about this for the 8th spot? Jeff Heisong, Eric Schaus, Eric Peterson, Dylan Moskowitz. These guys are all in some good battles for final spots inside the top 10.
Yeah, it's tight. It's tight through a lot of those positions. Yeah, that very spot down 9th, 10th, 11th. That is a huge fight that's going on right now. Look at Ravon. Ravon hasn't been able to just clear these guys and go this time, though. So it's only a half second, which is a lot closer than these guys have been most of the race.
It's kind of interesting. I was just looking back, trying to see if maybe there's a consistency for Henry Bennett in terms of tracks with the lower banking. He only finished 7th at New Hampshire as well, so maybe this is a type of track, a type of layout with the lower banking that's just not quite to his taste, and maybe approaches these type of races as just getting a decent finish and then heading to a track where he has a little bit more confidence.
Well, that's not good enough when Rick Ravon's out in front, and Rick Ravon's the one that's really shoving the way, because if Ravon takes a W here, that all of a sudden starts to count Henry Bennett a long way out of the points. That's not going to be good enough for Henry. It's so difficult when it gets tight at the end of the season. He needs a good finish here. What have we got left, Seth?
We've currently got Iowa next week. Then we're going to be heading to our final, well, actually, correction, our final road course stop of the season at Long Beach. Then we've got Texas Motor Speedway, and of course, the Indy 500 to finish out the season. So yeah, time is running out. And you know, if you think about this season as opposed to last season, last year when Maleska took the points lead and we saw him in victory lane a total of 10 times, it ended up being more the focus of the battle for 2nd, 3rd, 4th in the point standings because Maleska was gone. We have had so many lead changes in the point standings here this season. I mean, Ravon lost the points lead to Bennett last week. It's almost looking like we might flip the script again here tonight if Ravon's able to close out the deal. I mean, it seems like nobody has been able to hold the points lead this season at all.
No, it's sort of, you get a hand on it, and you know that you're going to be given that back. The very next race has basically been the way that things look. I think Long Beach is probably going to be the deciding factor in the run home here. If you come out of Long Beach with the championship lead, especially at a track with that sort of sensibility and difficulty level, and we know that if something goes wrong at Long Beach, it goes horribly wrong. You don't have a half and half incident. You don't just sort of get away with one. You kind of can't. The walls are just too close. So Long Beach is going to be the closer for me. If you can get the deal done at Long Beach, that's probably it.
And as we've seen during the course of this season as well at the road courses, drivers up there in the championship hunt, when they've had issues there usually are no cautions to save them. Same deal is going to be at Long Beach more than likely next week. And to your point, yeah, the hits that are going to be taken there are going to be huge if you end up making a mistake, and more than likely ends your race at that very moment, fast repair or none.
Yeah, look, I mean, and in terms of things, I'd like to quote an old song in the knowledge that we very well might get DMCA'd for it. When the hits start coming, they don't stop coming.
Exactly. Absolutely. Ravon enjoying half a second, well, a little less than half a second. Back to Nick Degroot. David Cook, another half second back in the 3rd position. 4th place is AJ Hobson. Matt Wagner currently in the 5th spot. Only about 4.5 seconds separating the top 5. But again, these drivers have settled themselves into a long green flag run. So now if you're Nick Degroot, obviously, you're the driver that's dealing with that aero tightness running in the wake of the 2 car. Rick Ravon's got the benefit of the clean air. We see Nick Degroot searching right now, but obviously that takes away his opportunity to run the optimal line. So, I mean, is there anything Nick Degroot can do right now outside of what he's doing to close that gap up, or is he right now just hoping Rick makes a mistake?
He can. Yeah, he certainly can. And that's why you're seeing him search for those different lines. Is right now, the margin's close. The margin is actually closing. It was out to half a second. Now it's down to 0.3 of a second, 0.2 of a second, right in and around that 0.25 of a margin. So he is actually closing. This is good. So that whilst Evan Degroot's making time up here, he can search for a little bit of a line. Now he's getting close. That arrow is going to be at its weakest for him. So he knows what the car's going to feel like. Right now, he's just going to be looking after those tires, keep searching. Is it left? Is it right? Is it left? Where do I want to run? Is it high? Is it low? Where's the grip? Is a later apex arc? Is that really going to help me? Am I going to try and diamond the corner through 3 and 4? He needs to find the pace. You can see he's just dropped a couple tenths further back off of Rick Ravon here again. That's just hit. He's just finding that pace. We've still got 20 laps here to go. So he's just searching. He's reading Ravon, and he'll make his judgment probably with about 10 to go.
Riding on board here with Degroot, you can see there is some traffic up ahead that the race leader's going to have to deal with momentarily, and we saw moments ago as well an important pass made for the 6th position. Henry Bennett finally making the move and completing the pass on George Anzaldo, so move him up another spot closer towards the top 5.
Yeah, he's coming for Wagner as well. Like, I get the feeling that Wagner's probably dead in the water here. I think Wagner's burned up his tires a little bit too hard going after AJ Hobson. He had to try and make that move. He had to try and get it done. It didn't fall his way, and, well, I mean, Wagner's Wagner's season might just have finished up after this race.
Rayvon now going to have to deal with traffic. That's Todd Schneider in the 86, 2 laps down, and that might actually allow Nick Degroot to close that gap up. You can see now 0.4 of a second here through 3 and 4, but now he is going to have to deal with the 86 on the front straightaway. Less than 20 to go. Want to take the opportunity here to shout out LMCgear.com, the sponsors of our starting grid and finishing results here this evening. LMCgear.com is a one-stop shop for all your motorcycle camping and backpacking needs, specializing in camping gear that is ultra lightweight and compact, making it perfect for carrying on your motorcycle or in a backpack. And they also carry all the motorcycle accessories that you need to get your gear safely down the road. Check them out at lightweightmotorcyclecampinggear.com. Today, pass for the 8th position as Hysong going to lose the spot potentially to Eric Peterson. Hysong going to battle back. Eric Schaus right there. I'll tell you what, I don't want to jinx it. Believe me, I do not want to jinx it. But if we are looking at the potentiality for a late race caution, it might be in this portion of the field.
Yeah, this is for sure where it'll be. And I mean, Jim Brooks is out of sequence. He's running in P19. He's a couple laps off the lead here, so you kind of have to count him out. He's actually 4 laps down. So there's 2 guys still running, him and Gary Corley at the 4 laps down. So he is obviously trying to maintain a reasonable semblance of pace and still keep his night alive as much as he possibly can, just in case something does happen. He can grab a few more spots. So look, I mean, he could just not be here, but he's here, so you got to deal with him.
And here's the thing, too. I mean, obviously, we focus a lot on the guys that are up there towards the top of the point stands because the championship's on the line for them. There are guys that are in the field. They've got battles of their own going on the point stands as well. I kind of look down there in the latter half of the top 10. Dylan Moskowitz, Charles T., Jim Brooks, Jeff Hysong. These guys all came into this race separated by a total of 10 points. And there is a caution late in this one. Todd Schneider in the 86 has gone around the back straightaway, ends up down on that dogleg area, out of harm's way of oncoming traffic. But, ooh, how about this? A little spicy late race drama.
Well, yeah, this is all of a sudden just taking the race and cranked it up a notch. Who's been saving those tires? I have a feeling everyone's going to come down pit road here. This sort of takes away the tire strategy of things. Who's going to stay out? I think some of the guys that are down the back of the pack have just got a shot here. They're going to stay out. Why? Well, I mean, when you gain 10 plus places, why wouldn't you stay out? Why wouldn't you give yourself an opportunity to make something of this is probably what they're going to be thinking.
Saw there the left front of Todd Schneider below that yellow line, getting onto the apron and just snapped him around. And oh, we come back just in time for a little cat and mouse with Rick Rayvon and Nick Degroot.
Yeah, well, I mean, both of those guys opting to not come in. I think Degroot's looked after his tires better. So on this restart, I really feel like Degroot is going to be the one that's going to have a huge opportunity here. Split strategies right throughout the field, though. I wonder if Wagner's come in. No, Wagner's stayed out. Henry Bennett's in. So I think Henry Bennett's the first car that's come down pit road.
Got a total of 12 drivers on the lead lap at the time that caution flew. 5 drivers electing to stay out. That was your top 5. Henry Bennett, 6th place on down. They came down to the attention of their crew.
Gale Brooks stayed out. So he'll grab a whole bunch of spots.
You would be correct. Yes, so 6 drivers stayed out and 6 drivers came to pit road. And it's going to be the highest of those drivers. He will be restarting in the 7th position, and he will have almost 35 lap fresher tires than the other drivers ahead of him. Does that play the factor now into his ability to overtake these guys? Does that fresh rubber now put these guys kind of dead in the water?
Yeah, I wouldn't say dead in the water. What I would say is that they're not necessarily dead in the water. The race is going to go back green with about 8 to go. That's not necessarily dead in the water. What that is they've opted for an alternative strategy to try and preserve themselves. Rick Rayvon, he can't come in. He's got the lead of the race. He's hoping as many cars as possible behind him stay out. He gets that defense from them. It's going to take multiple laps upon laps upon laps for those guys that are a little bit back there with the tires to actually get up to him, let alone get past him. And we've seen how difficult it is to overtake, let alone get over the top of that aero disadvantage in the current circumstances. So in terms of things, Henry Bennett, where do I think he can possibly finish? I think he can still away P3 here, but I don't think he can get much higher than that.
Joseph Morales in his debut here tonight was the free pass machine, so 13 drivers will be on the lead lap when we get ready to go back green flag racing. Rayvon, Degroot, Cook, Hobson, and Wagner, your top 5. They, along with 6th place Gale Brooks, they all stayed out. Henry Bennett is the driver on fresh tires that's the highest in 7th. George Anzaldo, Eric Peterson, Eric Schaus, that's going to be your top 10. Dylan Moskowitz and Jeff Heisong, they are going to complete the top 12 and then add Joseph Morales onto the lead lap as well. Those are the 13 drivers that have a shot here with less than 10 to go when we eventually get the green flag here and what's going to be a shootout in the desert.
Yeah, lights are off. So we're going to come back green with 9 laps to go. 9 laps, like I said, I think he can get up to P3 for Bennett. I think if you have a look at Wagner had probably the toughest call of a lot of them, and it was a lot easier for Henry Bennett to make that call because Wagner looks at all the guys ahead of him and he says, these are the guys that I've got championship hopes against all around me. If I come in, I'm throwing away so much track position to these guys. I'm giving it all up. I don't think I could get that back. He's struggled to make overtakes tonight, Henry Bennett, so I think he's actually made the right call for him. I think Matt Wagner's made the right call for him. I think Bennett's made the right call for himself as well. He's been a lot easier able to make these moves. His qualifying attempt wasn't great, so Bennett's got to be the big mover here.
Rick Rayvon control car up through the gears. Degroot now under fire from David Cook for the 2nd position as Rayvon looks to pull away and the caution's out again. Nicholas Winook has gone around on the front straightaway. I've got a feeling we might have had ourselves a stack up here coming to the green on this restart.
Yeah, that's going to be a big one. We're going to have to keep our eyes back further in the pack just sort of see what happened.
Nook was running in the 16th position, multiple laps down, and well, let's see if he gets help or if he just spins the tires. That's Jim Brooks up ahead of him. Oh, wow.
Moskowitz gained a couple places in that restart there, though, so he's done a phenomenal job.
I'm honestly not sure how to call that one.
We have a look.
Take another look here. Does he get into the back of the 51? Oh, no.
No, he doesn't. He touched the wall? Does he touch the wall?
Yeah, I think he did brush the wall. Saw that car dart out to the left from the first camera shot, but you can see there, I think he does make some contact, potentially with the right rear tire into that outside wall, and that's what snapped him around. So, no contact with any other drivers, and Nicholas Winook bringing out this yellow flag. And if you're Henry Bennett now, you're going, oh, come on. I needed those extra laps to be able to work with the pickup positions.
I don't know. Tough call from Henry Bennett. You're not expecting a caution to come out that quickly. So, I mean, he's made the right call. Again, if he gains one spot here and he gets back past Gale Brooks, he's back where he would have come in. And then any further after that's just huge bonus to him. And all the guys behind him are thinking exactly the same thing. That's what they're after. So
Charles Teed in the 50 going around and getting his lap back. So 14 drivers will be on the lead lap when we go back green, which is going to be obviously with less than 5 laps to go. Teed had issues during that first green flag run, had to come down pit road and actually took on a fast repair at that point. Only 4 drivers here tonight have had to use a fast repair in what has been a relatively green flag racing type night. And all of those drivers right now running outside of the top 10. Teed, Schneider, Herrick, and Jim Brooks. As Rick Rayvon now, obviously not what Henry Bennett wanted to see in terms of that the laps are going to be limited for this upcoming restart. But if you're Rick Rayvon, this plays right into your hands because it's going to be less laps that you have to defend against Nick Degroot.
Yeah, less laps that you're going to have a draft support to try and get back up against you, and less laps to build that run. Because that's what it's all going to be about. It's about building that run. You can't just go balls to the wall straight away. You've got to kind of build that run off the draft. You've got to kind of make sure that you can hold it. And I think Degroot is probably at risk here. I'm not 100% sure if Rayvon can be overtaken from the position that he's in. Degroot's had a crack a couple times at him. Hasn't really been able to do it. But the difficulty you've got to remember from Degroot's position is that Rick Rayvon's going to call the restart for David Cook. So David Cook is going to have a huge launch on Degroot. So Degroot's going to defend, which basically lets Rick Rayvon get away.
I love you bringing up that point because we actually have seen that take place in the last 2 restarts. We saw even on that last restart, I observed the fact that Cook hung back just a little bit. When Rayvon got going, Cook accelerated as well and was able to get to the outside of Nick Degroot. So yeah, with the team communication that's going on between the 2 teammates at a Patriot speed, they're being able to control that 89 of Nick Degroot not getting to the back bumper of Rayvon, actually kind of almost taking his focus off of one car and having it focused on another. Instead of on offense against Rayvon, he's more on defense against the 24 of Cook.
Which just basically it signs, seals, and delivers this one over to Rayvon as well. AJ Hobson's got a shot here. He's been a little bit aggressive early on in the runs. Wagner needs to grab this 4th place away from him though, so keep your eyes on Wagner.
If we get a caution between now and the checkered flag, the race will end under yellow. It will be a 4-lap shootout to decide it here under the lights at the Phoenix International Raceway. Rayvon, Degroot, Cook, Hobson, and Wagner. That's your top 5 once again. Rick Rayvon, the control car. He gets to choose as soon as that pace car hits pit lane when he wants to go. He's making them wait. Now accelerates away. 2, 3 car lengths before they even reach the start-finish line.
Yeah, keep your eyes on this one. Wagner's didn't get a great start. Have a look at Cook. Cook's wide. Cook's lost a spot to AJ Hobson, and he's going to be vulnerable to Wagner.
Wagner now under fire as well from the 51 of Jim Brooks.
Oh!
Machine! Cook hard to the wall, up and riding the catch fence, lands up on the top of the safer barrier. Caution is out, race is over. Rick Rayvon's going to win this under yellow after a terrible crash for David Cook up in 3 and 4.
I mean, Wagner has to send it there. There's a couple laps left to go. He's got to go all the way down. He just gets tight. He wasn't looking after his tires well at the back end of the race. There's nothing he can really do. He's on old tires. They're dead tires as well. He's done about all he can possibly do. The car just gets tight and Cook tries to sweep the corner. The reason why Cook's coming down the track in that one is because he wants to pinch him. He wants to minimize the momentum that Matt Wagner can get off the corner. The low line, the shorter way around the track, you can see that. It's the further ahead on entry, but then you'll lose a lot of time on the exit. If Wagner can drift up the track a little bit, he can hold some extra momentum, potentially get the move done a little bit earlier. So David Cook is in every right, trying to come down, trying to pinch him, and unfortunately that's just a racing incident. They both come down, so Wagner drifts up a little bit, Wagner's trying to run that higher line through the corner, Cook's trying to take the best line for his race scenario, nothing that either of them can do.
Let's not forget, too, you pointed out the fact it's been a limited number of starts for David Cook, coming in trying to obviously try and help his teammate Rick Rayvon secure this championship. And so with the fact that he dropped back there, losing a spot to Hobson, he's in defense mode for the 2-car, trying to hold up those other championship contenders. And I think that's what he was trying to do there, trying to make sure that Wagner did not pick up that spot, did not gain those valuable points on Rayvon, and finish a little bit higher than where he was running. And obviously was willing to take that risk. It obviously didn't pay off as we saw him up there and into the catch fence, but obviously the priorities changed for the 24 when he lost that 3rd position.
Yeah, just a horrible restart. I mean, that's what it's all about. If you can really pin that incident on anything, you can say that it was actually the poor restart, the poor run through 1 and 2. I think Degroot's a little bit annoyed here because Degroot would have really liked one more crack at Rick Rayvon, and I think he had potentially the momentum to be able to have a crack at that one, but it is what it is, and when the season's decided, at the end of things, Degroot's going to lose a little bit of ground to Rayvon and gain a whole bunch on just about everyone else. So Degroot has put himself a lot further forward for his championship and title contention hopes.
I said at the top of the night, it always seems like the guys up there in the top 5 in points find their way up there into the top 5 in the finisher results week after week. All 4 of them currently occupying spots inside of the top 5. Bookending the 63 of AJ Hobson, but Rick Rayvon just a couple corners away from becoming the 3rd 3-time winner on the season, as he will be looking for win number 3 for that 2-car, and maybe, we'll have to wait and obviously see, but maybe retaking the points lead back this week, the points lead that he lost last week.
No, he will
when
take
we were
it
in Japan at Motegi.
He'll take it for sure, because he was only a couple points out of it. It was real tight at the top, so he'll take this one back for sure with Bennett 5th.
Start-finish line will be crossed. It's official. Rick Rayvon will take the 3rd checkered flag of his career here tonight at the Phoenix International Speedway. Degroot will finish 2nd. Hobson, Wagner, and Bennett will be the top 5 as this race ends under yellow, but what an exciting race overall, no doubt. And Gravon, with only a limited number of races left here on the season, we may be looking back at this victory here tonight when we get to Indianapolis in a few weeks' time, and maybe seeing this as the race that may secure the championship.
Yeah, potentially. And the other thing is, how pretty is it when we actually get to see a formation finish? You know, normally during regulation racing, it's not something that you can really organize or arrange, and it's really good opportunity to see the top 3 on track come home in a podium style setup. That's phenomenal.
Desert sky filled with fireworks there on the back straightaway. The front stretch now going to be where Rick Ravon brings his machine to a stop in front of the fans, as he'll get ready to celebrate here tonight, picking up his 3rd victory on the year, taking the points lead into next week at the short track of Iowa. And take a look at those finishing results that I spoke about just moments ago. And I mean, got these guys still keeping themselves in the hunt. Granted, they're going to lose a little bit of ground with Ravon winning here tonight. He also led the most laps, but Degroot, Wagner, Bennett, all up there inside of the top 5. And what a great run there for AJ Hobson. I mentioned the fact he had great numbers here at this track last season, finishing 4th, and a podium finish for him here tonight. So obviously very at home here on the West Coast.
Yeah, season high finish for him, and what a run from AJ Hobson. Great finish, great result all around. So, you know, what a cracker. What an absolute cracker out here in the deserts.
Zaldo coming back. He's going to finish in 6th. Gale Brooks, good call on his part. He was the last driver that decided to stay out when all that split strategy was taking place late, and those old tires were able to hang on for a 7th place finish for him. Eric Peterson, Eric Schaus, they'll get 8th and 9th, and Jeff Heisong, he's going to complete the top 10. The other drivers that didn't exactly benefit as much here tonight, of course, David Cook up there and into the catch fence did not make it to the checkers. He'll finish in the 15th position. Jim Brooks with early issues just didn't seem to be able to come back from them, as he's going to finish in the 18th position. And there you see the remainder of the field. Nicholas Winook finishing in the 20th spot, and that's the finishing results officially here tonight from the Phoenix International Raceway. But boy, these drivers, they put on a heck of a show. We saw 2 long green flag runs, some late cautions giving us some drama there. Wondering if Rick Ravon was going to be able to keep them in his rearview mirror, but he was able to. And let's see what the drivers thought about tonight's race from the cockpit. Let's talk to our first podium finisher here tonight, 3rd place finishing AJ Hobson. Hey, AJ, Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yes, I do.
And a great performance for you here tonight, up inside the top 5 pretty much the entirety of the evening. Saw that you were probably maybe also one of the most aggressive drivers on restarts, picking up a couple of positions when the drivers were all bunched up. But I mentioned the fact that coming into tonight last season, you finished 4th place here. Anything that you were able to take from that race to apply here tonight, or was it basically clean slate? And what were some of the difficulties you were dealing with here tonight as well?
I'd say the most difficult part of the race was trying to catch the top 3 there in that last stint. They just seemed to have speed that I couldn't find. The top line in 3 and 4 is working really good for me, though, and I think that's really what kept me up there the whole race, saving some tires and kind of had clean air a lot of the time, too, so that was nice.
Tough race out here in the desert tonight. I mean, Arrow, we saw how difficult it was to pass during the long green flag runs, and all of a sudden you found that speed on the restart. So, look, rough race all around, just trying to hang on, trying to defend. It's just a long race, just all about race management in the end.
Yeah, the restarts were pretty good to me. I kind of sat back a little bit, and they'd kind of wash up, it seemed like, in turns 1 and 2, and I was able to get a run there on a couple restarts on the inside and clear them so I could get back up top in 3 and 4. So the restarts definitely treated me pretty good tonight.
Are you expecting to see those late race yellows come out? Because we saw the first half of this race run under the green flag conditions, even saw a cycle green flag pit stop. So, you know, in your head, were you strategizing potentially for some late race yellows, or were you maybe thinking that the final pit stop of the night might end up taking place under green flag conditions and strategizing accordingly?
I'm kind of glad the yellows happened, actually, because there when I think, who was it? Henry was the first one to pit there on the yellow flag that we got there at the end, and I thought I might have made the wrong decision not coming in, but I also thought if there was a yellow, there might not be enough time for him to get back up there, so I guess I made the right decision in the end, but I didn't expect that last yellow. So yeah.
A great performance for you here tonight. Podium finish there in third place. Congratulations there, AJ. We're now going to give the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout outs.
Yeah, I'd like to thank my team, Dark Horse Racing. We've kind of been strategizing the last couple weeks in here, and we finally got one of us in the podium, so that was nice. And Henry made a pretty good setup for this race after making a couple changes to it right before. So I think it was a good setup change, and it made for a pretty good race.
Definitely did. AJ Hobson is your third place finisher here tonight in the desert. Congratulations there on a great run, AJ. Best of luck next week at the short track of Iowa.
Thank you, guys.
See if we can get our second place finisher here tonight. Was obviously hoping to go 2 for 2 at the Phoenix International Raceway, but came up just a little bit short. Let's talk with the former champion, Nick Degroot. Nick's gotten set up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yep, I gotcha.
All right, well, man, obviously a lot of eyes on you coming in tonight, seeing if you could go back-to-back here after taking the checkered flag last season, but, oh, man, that car looked fast. It just kind of seemed like the problem was you were the meat between the sandwich there with those teammates controlling those late race restarts.
Yeah, every single one of those late restarts, I'm trying to time it so I can get a good run on Rick, but before I can even think about that, I'm having to deal with David because he's on my inside, he's on my outside, he's coming at me from every angle, and so that made it difficult there. But that's what teammates do, and I've been on that side of it as well, protecting teammates. So it worked out, and to be honest, I don't think I would have had really anything for him because the tires were just shot at the end. I think my only chance was that first restart. After the first yellow of the race when we all had fresh tires, and I got a run. It just wasn't quite enough. I got all the way up next to him, but could not clear him. So I think that was my one opportunity with just how hard it was to pass tonight.
Oh yeah, it was difficult, but it was also, I mean, you had to defend, you had to use lap traffic. It was a race of just looking for the opportunities. Lap traffic presented itself. What was your call? I know we didn't get to it and we got denied it by probably a lap worth, but what was your call for that last green flag stop if we'd have gotten it? Was it to come in early, lap 75 or so, or were you going to extend?
Oh yeah, I was coming as early as I could to try to just put down laps because fresh tires are fast. You just needed that clean air and not any traffic, and you could just be ripping it. Like at the end there, if those final 10 laps were green, I guarantee you Henry and George would have been 1-2 because those tires would have just threw them to the front of the field. But with those yellows, it kind of protected us guys. So I thought about coming down with them. I was hesitant all the way to the last second. I was like, do I? I was kind of reacting to Rick. If he stayed out, I was going to probably pit and vice versa. And he kind of snickered me at the end because I thought he was coming in. And then at the second he comes up and I'm like, oh, all right, crap. Guess I'm staying on all the tires in second.
Hey, to talk about the tires, we also were talking a lot about the aero here tonight, running in traffic, having to deal with the tight sensation, especially off of the tight turn 4. Saw a lot of drivers out there searching for the clean air. So, I mean, how difficult is it to be able to maybe not necessarily run the optimal line that you want to run all the time, trying to save those tires underneath you? Because we saw some drivers adopt the diamonding the corner strategy. We saw other drivers run a little bit higher maybe in the corner. Where did you feel more comfortable in trying to save those tires underneath you, but at the same time make sure you could actually turn when you got off the corner?
Yeah, I really liked running the high line in turns 3 and 4. That was like my go-to for a bunch of laps there with Rick. He liked the bottom, and 3 and 4 was just giving me that top side. And I saw I was getting a 10th here, a 10th there because of that. And I was 1 and 2. I was never really comfortable in 1 and 2 the whole race. I tried the top, I tried the bottom, I tried shallower entry, a higher entry, and just none of it really felt good. So I just kind of decided to stick it to the yellow line and just run it that way, shortest way around. But yeah, I don't think I never really figured out the optimal line in 1 and 2, but 3 and 4 we were rolling.
Obviously, another good performance for you here tonight. We keep seeing all the drivers up inside the top 5 in points, finish consistently up at the front week after week. It's going to make things very exciting for that championship when we eventually get to Indianapolis, no doubt. But Nick, congrats on a great performance here tonight. Second place run. Now we'll give you the opportunity to do some thank yous and some shout outs and sponsors.
As always, Factory Back in Motorsports. Really cool to have 3 of our cars in the top 6 tonight. It was awesome to have George joining us. And CovenMort.com, Motorsport.com, Cowboy Ship, LacePod, HyperX. everybody else that supports this team. It's really fun to race with a group of guys like this. So can't wait for the next one. Should be fun.
Degroot, second place here tonight at the Phoenix International Raceway. Congratulations and best of luck for the next short track race that we're headed to in Iowa.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys.
And let's go down to victory lane. Third win on the season, second win in the last 3 races, and that's Rick Ravon. Hey, Rick, it's Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Scott and Seth, my main men.
Well, man, I mean, obviously tonight, that car was on rails. You got out in front, got that clean air, and nobody seemed to be able to get to you. You did have those late race restarts, though, that you had to kind of do some defending, but how good was it to have a teammate back there in third to kind of alleviate that pressure from Nick Degroot on your back bumper?
Well, we race each other, me and Dave Cook. We race each other pretty hard. It didn't look like that on the start because I'll tell you, the Gould Charge was on rails, but his Norton Spirit was quick too. I mean, we were starting to talk about halfway through the race about a possible 1-2, and now Degroot, he's just super tough to get by, so smart and so cunning. And I told him, I said, look, if you get side by side with Degroot, you don't have to worry about him, because he's a first class race car driver, and he's not the kind of guy who's going to put you in the wall. So I was just looking forward. I was hoping he could get around Degroot and pick up second. That would have been points for us as a team, and also knock Nick back another spot to separate us a little bit. But this was a great race. The Gould Charge was hooked up. Me and Dave, we went out there. Dark Horse was awesome. They put out the setup. They give you the weather and everything, and we went out there and practiced. And the car, I'll tell you what, after about 7 or 8 laps, it started to get loose, and so me and Dave, we worked on that and did fuel runs to get comfortable with it. And then all of a sudden, guys were spinning in practice. They said, well, we better change that setup, make it a little more stable. And I'm like, oh, no, because, I was hoping to gain some kind of an advantage on the field. So that was a little disappointing. I mean, I understand why they did it. It's for the greater good, and you don't want to have a yellow flag every 10 laps. So I'm just grateful that it all worked out.
Race tonight. I mean, lap traffic was a big part of it. There was an extended period during the middle of the race there where you were sort of kept up in a pack of lap traffic, and Degroot was coming. But did you have any fears about being able to hold him off?
Well, if Nick gets close enough, there's always a possibility he can get around you. But I've been doing this a long time. I have a few tricks up my sleeve too. I started going through all the scenarios and saying, well, if this happens, I could do that. If this happens, I could do that. But, the slower cars, they're racing for position. They're also trying to stay on the lead lap. I understand. There were some people out there that were courteous and just, stepped aside and let me go as the leader, which, of course, I appreciate. Anybody who's leading the race or second or third place would appreciate. I wasn't really that concerned with the slower cars because this field is just, we've got Class A drivers out there. So I really wasn't too worried about getting through the traffic. The only thing that was a little bit concerning was getting to the traffic, because once you got behind somebody, the arrow push kicked in, and it was really hard to reel somebody in once you got to within about 0.8 of a second. So I wanted to put some cars between me and Nick, and we were able to do that. And everything just went great. I'm tickled to death. I don't know what to say.
I mean, obviously, Rick, we've got 4 more races after tonight before the championship's decided, but a thing that we touched on during tonight's broadcast was the fact it seems like when somebody gets the points lead, they can't hang on to it. I mean, you lost the points lead to Bennett last week at Motegi. You're gaining it back here tonight as well. It just kind of seems like nobody is safe of being able to hold on to that points lead and keeping it. With these races coming up, we got Iowa next week. We've got the Long Beach Street Circuit coming up in 2 weeks' time. Of course, we've got the big one in Indianapolis. I mean, what's the feeling to try and be able to keep this 2 up there at the top of the points standings, and how much motivation with the fact that we've seen so much swapping for the points lead going on here during the course of the season? How much motivation does that give you up in these next final races of the schedule?
Tons and tons of motivations. I'll tell you, Seth, I'm not sure that I want to be leading because every time I'm leading, something happens and you lose the lead. Same thing happened to Bennett. So it's going back and forth. I think I'd rather be the hunter than the hunted. But we've got 4 races to go. We're just going to have to see how everything plays out. I was a little bit surprised to see Henry Bennett back there because he usually has incredible speed. He didn't get the pole tonight, which was a shock. But Dark Horse is just such a phenomenal league, and that just goes to show you how competitive this league is. You've got Degroot and Bennett and me and Molesky. I guess he didn't show up tonight, so maybe his championship hopes are gone. But you've got Teed is up there, and I think AJ Hobson finished up. Matt Wagner. These are all good guys. Peterson. Just such a fantastic league. I love running with these guys, and it's so competitive. It's so exciting, before the start of the race, like, here we go, baby. Here we go, baby. Ooh, here we go. Yeah, now hit it. Yeah, green flag. Woo, let's go. Let's get them. I'm just so excited. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
You remind me of me. You remind me of me racing, man. You'll be proud of me, Rick. I ended up winning a truck race on Friday at Bristol.
Oh, fantastic,
in a league,
man.
So same thing. Literally went off the handle with the win. So
you gotta tell me, like, if it's on YouTube or being broadcast. I'd like to support you like you support me, man.
I did a shoey for you, Rick. I did a shoey. It was with water, but pulled the Aussie tradition out. Did the shoey.
I'd love to.
Are we gonna see a Rick Ravon shoey at the end of the season?
To be honest with you, I don't even know what a shoey is. What is a shoe? What the hell is a shoey? I'm a little embarrassed now. Am I like so far out of the loop or so old that I should like know these terms?
Formula One. It's a Formula One reference. It's an Australian thing that we do to celebrate. Daniel Ricciardo pours the champagne at the end of the race into his racing boot and drinks from it.
So let's see. We've got donuts. We've got climbing the fence. We've got the Polish celebratory lap in NASCAR. We've got all these. Now we've got the shoey. Okay, I've got to learn what that is. I gotta go. I'm gonna go on. Is it
what
too
you're
late?
saying is, if Rick wins at Indianapolis, instead of champagne, he's got to drink the milk out of the shoe.
Gross! No. Well, That's what the shoey is. You drink it out of the shoe.
I better go out and buy a new pair of shoes because I'm not going to take any of my shoes and put them in there after I worn them. maybe get like a little baby shoe or something like that. I'll do a shot. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
See, I've got snow boots because obviously it doesn't snow much over here in Australia. We've been in the snow once, so I wore those boots for like a couple days, a couple of years ago, and they've just been sitting in the cupboard. So,
well, you take those snow boots and you fill it up, man. Fill it up all the way with that champagne, and then have fun.
Well, great win for you here tonight, Rick. Congratulations. Third driver to reach 3 wins this season as well. You take the points lead into Iowa. So a lot of good things happening to you here tonight in the desert. We're now going to turn the mic over to you for some victory lane. Thank you, sponsors and shout-outs.
Thank you, sponsors and shout-outs. Yeah, I forgot I was going to mention last week at Motegi, the Gould Charger was pretty hooked up there too, and I think I had like a 5-second lead. And Degroot pitted early. I think he was going for the undercut, so I pitted the lap after that, and then the yellow came out, and it really caught me out, and I was sent all the way back to 10th. So that was kind of a heartbreaker right there. I felt like we kind of had that race under control. This could have been 3 in a row, but you asked me how important momentum is, and I said I think we have momentum on our side after Milwaukee, and things are looking good. But as far as the shout-outs are concerned, I want to shout out to the whole league. Charles Teed and Eric Peterson, thanks for putting this deal together. Thanks to FRN and all you guys in the booth. Thanks to the drivers for racing so clean. Thanks to my wife who came down here screaming at the top of her lungs, I'm so proud of you, honey. You guys missed it. It's a shame. My daughters, Mila, Mercedes, everybody who out there who supports me on Facebook and follows my Facebook page. And I love it. I love every second of it. The support means everything to me. And thanks to the good Lord. Last but not least, of course, I love you, Jesus. Thank you for giving me life. And thanks to everybody who's tuned in. And by the way, George Elizondo was out there tonight. It was nice to have him out there. Haven't seen him in a while. So hello to him. And I guess that's about it. Thanks so much, guys, for what you do. And I can't wait to watch the replay. And God bless everybody. Love you.
That's Rick Ravon. He's your winner here tonight at the Phoenix International Raceway. Win number 3 on the season and your new points leader heading into Iowa. Congratulations, Rick. Go enjoy that victory. And we look forward to seeing you right back at it next week.
Well, thanks very much. Looking forward to it. Can't wait. Thank you.
Point standings are in as our broadcast concludes here tonight at Phoenix. And Scott, it's still close. Indeed, Rick Ravon takes the points lead, 8 points over Henry Bennett. Nick Degroot now 24 points back. But with 4 races left, as I mentioned, Matt Wagner, 66 points out, and Molesky III, who was not in the field here tonight, 79 points out. Do these guys still have a lifeline, or is time running out for those two?
I I think Maleska's done. I think that's it. I don't see a way back in. Wagner's on the limit. Next race has to be a win. If it's not a win, I think he's done. Yeah, it's not necessarily that these guys' championships are over. They still have hopes. They still have targets. They still have hopes and dreams. You know, they've definitely got an opportunity. It's just they've got to manage what they can and what they can't do. So look, I mean, it's tight. It's been a phenomenal season. To be perfectly honest, the points race being this tight after this many races is a phenomenal job. So it's a big shout out to everyone who's been a part of that. And mate, eyes on next week. Next week's going to be an absolute cracker at Long Beach.
And also to think about it too, kind of can't really rest on anything down this home stretch with the fact that we've got Iowa, Long Beach, Texas, and Indianapolis all coming up here, and we've seen the points lead swapped back and forth twice now in the last 2 weeks. So, you know, there's no saying that Ray Vaughn, Nick Degroot, Henry Bennett might find some issues in those 4 races and bring Matt Wagner right back into that championship picture when we get to the Brickyard. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see how this all plays out. Iowa is going to be the next stop for these guys next week. Kind of interesting. We heard our winner Rick Rabon talk about Charles Teed. Well, he's the defending winner of that race. Iowa held the 2nd spot on the schedule last year. It's much further down in the schedule this season with maybe a lot more on the line as terms of the championship. So be very interesting to see what happens at the final short track race of the season. That's going to be coming to you guys next Wednesday night with the green flag scheduled to fly at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But Scott, what a race here tonight at Phoenix. Long green flag run, some green flag pit stops, and some late race yellows, bringing about some very exciting restarts. But Rick Ravon at the end of the night picking up that victory. Appreciate you joining the booth.
Oh, mate. I mean, again, I'm in the booth here every week, not because I'm paid to be here. I'm here because this is exciting racing. You know, this is fantastic. IndyCar racing head to head. The drivers love each other. Like, that's the thing. Anything happens out on track, they go to resolve it. They're mature. You know, these are guys that are just out there having an absolute blast. They just happen to be really, really good at racing.
Absolutely. Well, thanks to everyone that tuned in tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage of the Dark Horse Racing Series presented by Troy Lee Designs. Rick Ravon, your winner here tonight at Phoenix, and we'll see you guys next week at Iowa. As for Scott Rankin, I'm Seth Cole. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.